Hello there, partner, and welcome to my new series. It's called Mountain Blade 1866. I say 1866 because Mountain Blade is actually a real game, which I'll explain how that works in a minute. But this is a mod for it. Specifically, it's a total conversion mod because it takes the base game and uses that to create its own world and game and everything. Because there's completely different textures and sounds and entirely new land and characters, and it's just pretty much built from the ground up with the original game's nuances and how you play it as its base. Now, as for Mountain Blade itself, it is the original Mountain Blade is a medieval sandbox game where you are a character that you decide how he looks, what his skills are, and so on. And you just enter this world of multiple nations warring against each other, and you can become a trader, or you can help villages, or you can become a bandit to burn them down. You can become a mercenary fighting in wars from faction to faction, or you could actually become a lord under those factions and fight for them, and eventually that faction will control all of the world, and that's how you win. Eventually your faction controls the entire world. Or you could even strike it out on your own, break off from the faction you're a part of to make your own faction. And it's pretty fun. And it takes that kind of gameplay style and puts it into a Western. It's specifically 1866 because that is a year after the Civil War, and that actually plays some part in setting the story for this. But I am going to create my character and mention things as I go along, just in case I have forgotten any of them. You pick male or female, you pick your character's nationality, which isn't in the original game, American, Mexican, Indian, because these are the three main factions, because you are on the US-Mexican border with Apaches and Comanches harassing people, and you can actually be part of their side. But that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an American. You can pick what your father was. And each of these will actually give you different stats, and I think in some cases relations with what you're actually fighting. I'm not sure about this, because that is something that's special with this, but I'll get into that later. But each of these give you stats, and they'll actually affect what equipment you start with. But I am going to be, or my father was a famous, I'll go with a notorious bandit, because in a special relationship with the West in the early age, you spent your early life in far from civilization. And this is actually something that's this entire picking screen is special for each side you pick, because you can join the American Civil War as a Union or a Confederate, or join the Franco-Mexican War as a mercenary for France or a soldier for Mexico, or you can profit from the conflict, i.e. a trader, or just join the local militia. I'll quickly go back and select, say, the Mexicans. As you can see, Army Colonel and famous lawman are bottled up in Mexican soldier. Same areas, but you can only be here because you weren't part of America. And if you go to the Indians, it's completely different, because your father was a cunning chieftain, brave warrior, shrewd merchant, lived in the same things. But you could join the American Civil War as a Union soldier with an Indian regiment, or join the warpath on either side, or watch over your people. Me, I'm going to go back with what I was. I'm going to join the local militia. Actually, I want to read that thing first. Back in the East, deeply rooted differences divided the United States and made brother strike against brother. The sound of cannons firing at Fort Sumter reached as far as the frontier. In America, a civil war between the North and the South became a harsh reality. With the United States distracted, France saw an opportunity to reclaim debts owed to her by Mexico. The French invaded and placed a puppet emperor on the Mexican throne. Mexican Republicans resisted the occupation. The Franco-Mexican War reached a fever pitch. It wasn't long before everyone you knew took up arms what they believed in. That's the same text. Like, if I pick any of these, it says the same text. But if I pick any of these, it says different text. So if I pick, say this, it says that, like how you join that, or I pick join local militia, which is what I'm going to do. You viewed the war as a terrible waste of life. Your responsibilities were still with the ones you loved, and so you joined the local militia to prevent atrocities at home rather than from afar. With all able-bodied men fighting the war, any semblance of law had gone with them. The filth of society raised to the surface, and eventually those you had stayed to protect had either died or left. You remained stalwart in your cause, hopeful for the return of your loved one upon the end of the war. When that fateful day came, the shuffling masses that were shadows of the people you once knew returned home, and you realized that despite your best efforts, you had failed to protect anyone at all. No. With the war at an end, you decided to pursue a new life for yourself in the West. However, you have just... Now, when this is the difficulty, that's your starting difficulty, like how easy you're going to be off with gear. Complete your journey without incident. You have the standard gear that your particular character selection would be. For just to point out an example, if you were a Confederate soldier, moving in my chair, sorry about that. If you were a Confederate soldier, you would actually, when you start the game, have a Confederate-based weapon and be wearing one of their gray uniforms, instead of whatever you would be if you were just some random guy. Same goes for the rest of these, except for Prophet from the Conflict. I'm not sure what the suit for that is, because I'm not really a trader. And that obviously gives you stats in trading. Discover the rated stagecoach will give you a bunch of random items to sell at a shop. And very easy, you instantly have $100 to spend, which is a pretty penny and would get you basically any weapon you would like for the rest of the game, as well as a pretty horse and a starting infantry. Whereas being robbed by bandits, you literally are just in a pair of pants. You don't have anything, they stole absolutely everything from you. So I'm going to go with medium, because I don't want it to be too easy. You're very surprised that nothing out of the ordinary happened so far in your recent travels. Normally, your life is just full of exciting events. Maybe things are actually starting to settle down for you. On the other hand, this might just be the calm before the storm. Become an adventurer and ride to the west. Now, you can actually choose to not quit without saving, but as it's an LP, allow me to quit without saving. Because, you know, if I screw up, that's going to be the end of the Let's Play, and then that's the bad thing. Each of these skills were determined as to the things I picked before, as were the preset skills over here. Those are attributes, stats, whatever. Now, I am going to do this a very particular way because it is how I have planned it out, because as it's a sandbox game, you could pretty much do mostly whatever you want, but I spent a few hours in this game specifically trying to figure out how I was going to play this out, instead of just randomly wandering about, wondering what I'm going to do for the first few episodes until something came up. So, I am going to get Persuasion. I'm also going to put a couple points in Intelligence. But, by the way, for every 3 points in one of these, you get an additional ability to put another point in one of these skills. So, for example, Intelligence, from levels 6 to 8, you can only put 2 points into whatever related thing Intelligence is. Now, granted, if you picked enough skills, if you picked enough things in the back, it can level up your skills higher than your attributes would allow you. For example, my horseback riding is 4 because of the things I chose. But I am going to put points in intellect, and by the way, when you put points in intellect and only intellect, it gives you an extra skill point as well, because you're so smart. But persuasion. Persuasion will be important to how I'm playing this. And, oh yeah, my charisma is pretty low. I only have 4. And leadership is important because next to renown, it is pretty much the only way you can actually increase your party size. Because the more leadership and the more renown you have, the more slots there are for people, because you can only have just so many people. To put that in perspective, the kings in the original game had like a couple hundred people, because, you know, they're kings. And trailblazing is also really important, because that will increase party movement speed. That is highly important, because if you don't actually level that up, chances are bandits will freely be able to catch up to you and beat you up. Inventory management is also really important because it gives you more slots for inventory, which allows you to hold more things. And again, the way I'm going to be playing this, that is kind of important. Finally, looting is 3 because I chose Notorious Bandit, so I don't need to spend points on leveling that up, which is something I specifically designed, because looting is again important because that allows you to get more stuff, which means you can get more stuff to sell. I think I'll get spotting, and I'll put last. Screw it, I can really put those back in really fast. Forget leadership. Just finished talking about leadership, and I forgot to put points in it. What was the last thing I did? Persuasion. And then proficiencies, what you're really good at. As you use these weapons, it will actually level them up anyway. But long guns is already 200, but I'm not going to be really using long guns that much unless I find a really good one, because those are like, you know, muskets. Well, muskets don't really exist anymore because it's 1866, but you know those one-shot rifles like Enfields and stuff. That's not too good. So I'm going to be using pistols, but that's already 100. So instead, I'm going to put it in two-handed weapons, which will become clear later. And name the character. And then on to character creation. This is mostly for the face. You can really just edit it how much you like. Me, I just kind of leave that blank, but it's kind of like a Elder Scrolls-esque kind of detail on how you want to design your character. Me, I have a very particular thing I like. Just scruffy hair. Also, he's headbanging to the music. Little beard thingy right there. Get the sad old looking guy. The hair color is black. Maker mode! As you can see, if you go through that slowly, it actually slowly adds wrinkles and stuff and starts whitening his hair until I'm an old man. And now I'll have it grayed. If I left it brown, you actually can't really tell. But that is actually a more detailed, more textured and detailed face than the original game had. I needed a drink because I've been talking for a while. You arrive in the Wild West in 1866, a land torn between U.S. and Mexican troops, with Indians and bandits battling each other for supremacy. It's a haven for gunslingers and mercenaries, cutthroats and adventurers, all willing to risk their lives in pursuit of fortune, power, or glory. In this land, which holds great dangers and even greater opportunities, you will leave your past behind and start a new life. Now, on a rise above distant training field, you feel that you hold the key to your destiny in your hands, free to choose as you will, and that whatever course you take, great adventures await you. Welcome to 1866. Where did we start? We started at the Comanche training field. Well, America is over there, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Now on the overview map, that's just a tutorial to tell you how you would play. Whoa! Those are Indian Raiders. They ride horses. Let's look at my inventory. I have a 5-shot rifle. I have 30 ammunition, a rusty box knife, and some smoked fish. So wearing a coat and leather boots. Now, unlike the medieval vanilla version, for those people who have seen / played that before, also looters battling Indian Raiders. I'll get to that in a second. For those of you who have played the original before, armor is not nearly as important as it is in those. Armor, I don't think, actually goes above 10. So it's really just for decoration in this game, more or less. Whereas in the other game, if you were wearing cloth, it actually felt like you were wearing cloth with how hard the enemies hit you. As this is guns, there's not much that can stop guns, and that's actually one of the downsides of this game, is that they're guns. That's one thing that I never actually really liked about this one, or their own version, Fire and Sword, is that guns do too much damage, even on that. I'm going to say now, difficulty rating 30% is still pretty difficult because it's guns. They still do. Like, if I look at myself, I need to go to character. I have 41 hit points. If, with a good gun, a raider, not a looter, but like a step above, can still do 20 damage to me, even on that easy difficulty rating. So it is kind of difficult, especially in the start, whereas in the vanilla game, it more just balanced the scales. Whereas, you know, they do like 3 or 4 damage to you, where you do like 20 damage to them. If you made it on normal, you'd do as much damage to them as they did to you. And it actually made it kind of fun because it wasn't just a clear-cut kind of thing, it was actually a challenge. But that is that game and not this game. I'm going to fight these raiders, because they're going toward the Indian Raiders to help their comrades. Oh, I thought he was going to get there. By the way, I'm going to save as... Well, there was only 9 save slots. That's the one I was using to test to find out how I was going to play. So I will name this. LP1. Now fight the looters for you to see how this plays. That was the overworld map. This is the actual battle map. It randomizes, and it could be a completely flat ground, or it could be a sparse forest. And it does, where you are does have some merit to the area. Like, if you're actually close enough to a village, you'll actually fight in the village instead of out in the overworld. The land like this. And also they're across that, so it's actually difficult to see them. You. I hit him in the head and he still lives. There are only 5 of them, I can actually kill them. That guy didn't put up a fight. That guy tried. Also, I heard something being thrown, so I'm guessing the guy up on the hill is still throwing. He's throwing stuff down at me. There's only one there's not only one throwing weapon in this game, but there is only one that looters would use, which are... He's basically throwing my melee weapon, this knife. He's throwing multiples of those at me. So that was fairly easy. Then you pretty much just loot what they have. It's kind of randomized, and obviously there would be more or less depending on your looting skill. Now this is something that's very special to this mod, is the stockpiling skill. It's actually a skill that you might have seen in the skill screen, where the higher stockpiling you have, the bigger bags of ammunition you can carry. For example, this is stockpiling 0, 30 bullets. That's stockpiling 6, 48. And it pretty much goes up from there. And I put that hat on my head just for decoration. It doesn't even have an armor rating, but as you can see, these armor ratings are actually really low. It's about as good as an armor rating as standard people will have. Also, these are just various weapons. None of them are actually as good as mine because they're only looters. In fact, these are boot pistols, which can only shoot once. And I'm not replacing this because it has a speed rating of 130, which if I was to equip, say, this butcher's knife, they would be able to swing faster than I would, and I wouldn't be able to actually hit them. But you saw that relation with commoners and outlaws. That was the other thing that this one has that the vanilla one did not. If I go to quests and I go to factions, you can see all these various factions. If I go to... There's the two Indian ones, but if commoners, it says unorganized, collective, regular people of the West. They value justice, honesty, and hard work, and they seek their fortune within the limits of the law. Permanently allied against all of these, which are gangs, which, you know, they're raiders. And also, these things, which are also raiders. Basically, you can get points, relation points, with these sides, and if you get the relation points, say with the example commoners, high enough, you can actually walk up to a group of commoners that are walking around, similar to how the looters or the Indian raiders walk around, and specifically recruit them into your party. And that is how I am going to make my army. And the reason why I got the two-handed is because the strongest blunt weapon in this game, which... So there's part of the Collins Banda. He's following some deserters. Do they even have a base? Because that is the Price Gang. Those factions. Collins Banda. It occupies nowhere. Ruled by Collins, and its leading members are Brown. So there's only two parties in there, and I'll get to that in a second. But the blunt weapon, the strongest blunt weapon in this game is two-handed, and blunt weapons have 100% chance to knock people unconscious instead of killing them. As you saw, I killed those people because I shot them and stabbed them, but if I were to knock them unconscious, I could take them as a prisoner, and later down the line, I could actually offer them to join my party instead. It will reduce morale, but all you need to do is go in a fight and it will raise morale back up. If morale gets low enough, people will actually want to leave. But that is also why I got the persuasion skill, because the persuasion skill makes a higher chance of recruiting them instead of them refusing, because they can refuse. And also, this is a deer herd. I'm not going to go to it because it would just be a waste of time. But it's, again, something special, so you can actually hunt that for venison and hides to sell at the shop. And there is one of the commoners I was mentioning. They are in green. Those are miners. They don't have enough of a faction relations to actually recruit them. However, if those renegades... if those renegades attack those miners, I would actually go try and help them. Mainly because 16 Confederate renegades is a bit much for me. Where did I want to go? That is the exact opposite way I wanted to go. Because there was also a very particular faction in here that I wanted to make a stake out of. Because, as I mentioned before, you can pretty much just take factions at will and so on and so forth. And my plan is to take one of the actual bandit factions, but in order to actually make hostile relations to attack them and try and take their base, you need to attack one of their people. And they actually own a separate area that has people travel back and forth from it, so I can attack those people to give myself bad enough relations that I can actually take that place. Does that make sense? Enough babbling? As for these guys, they have nothing but knives, which makes them easy targets. Again, you get shot in the face. Dude, you guys are resilient. You get shot in the face, and you're still moving. There you go. I have to wait for the press tab thing to come up. They had a bunch of hatchets, and they had a couple pistols, yet they didn't use them. And also, I leveled up to level 2, which means I can give myself more skills. Now, what do I want to get? I want to get... As I said before, spotting is actually pretty good, but I also want to get increased agility. Well, actually, what I want to do is pile all of my skills in strength, because that two-handed weapon that I was talking about, I can't actually get until I have 12 strength, and there is a stronger version for 14 strength. So for now, I'm going to be piling all of my skills in strength until I have enough to get that weapon, because the best I can do otherwise is a shovel or a stick, and those things kind of suck. I wanted spotting, so I can see enemies further away. And I will continue to level up two-handed weapons in preparation. Now, that's part of the USA. I could actually walk up to him or go in here and recruit myself to the USA, get a wage, and actually hire recruits to follow me to just start going. They will actually eventually start fighting enemies by themselves, and you'll see things pop up back and forth that this person was defeated but managed to escape, or this person was captured by them. And the Americans are currently, I believe, at war with the Apaches. And eventually, the Marshal would actually call you to go join him in a group to attack there, and possibly take one of their places. But I am going to show the town before I make this a video. Take a walk around the streets. Welcome to Bishop's Lodge. Actually, an actual western town. Actual railroad, although kind of looks like one of those toy trains that you'd have when you were younger. What's that say? The Westlander? It's totally a totally original name. And there's people you can talk to, like if I were to talk to this cowboy, tell me about this town, how's life, what's the latest rumor. I can apparently point my gun at this person. I'm not sure why I'd want to do that, because I'm not playing a bandit character, because that would piss the commoners off, which means I wouldn't be able to hire them. But you can actually go up to the shopkeepers here. I could go to here, or I could have talked to him there. But that is what I'm talking about, the wooden railroad hammer. 35 blunt damage. Requires 12 strength. I'm going to sell all of this stuff. $10. It's not bad. Winchester Rifle. If I was going to get any of the long guns, something like the Winchester Rifle would be it, because it says rounds 15. It's one of the first automatic rifles, or at least ones that didn't take more than one shot, one or two. But that is, as you can see, that's $105. I would only have 11. But there's all these various weapons you could get. You could actually get a lead pipe. However, the weapon reach is kind of bad. Although I'll think about the lead pipe, because that would allow me to knock people out earlier. And there's a tomahawk and various realistic weapons, like the Smith & Wesson, or the Mortimer revolver, and the double-barrel pistol. Although I'd rather one of these that have like 6 shots in them. Here's the supplier. All this various food. You can actually buy things like wool and pottery and spice and whiskey and all that stuff to go back and forth from towns as a trader. I'm not going to do that. Next is the horse trader, which is just, horses. No big deal. And then the outfitter. As you can tell, the highest stuff. 8 to body armor, 4 to leg armor. As I said before, there isn't a whole lot of armor in this game. However, you could buy a cigarette to wear on your head, because you can see, if you look really closely, you can see that pop up on the character, but, like I said, decoration. I am going to visit the Saloon. And there's the town. This is the Saloon. I don't think I want to question why you have an umbrella gun on your back. The drunkard, I think you could actually get in the bar fight with him. Bartholomew Jones. You can... Actually has a rifle. You can actually hire characters that act like NPC versions of you, because you can level them up in all the relevant skills. So if you say wanted someone that have trailblazing for you, you could hire someone and level them up in trailblazing, and they'll have, you know, things that they're proficient at, like yourself. And this guy is a mercenary. I could hire him if I wanted. If I talk to him and 3 of his buddies are looking for a job for $7. That's actually pretty cheap. And that's the saloon barkeep. But this is pretty much how you would see the towns. And there's, you know, each are differently styled, but this is pretty much it. Alright, there is the sheriff of the town, which you can actually talk to see if he needs help, and he'll actually give you quests to go do. There's also a wanted sign. You could actually accept that and go kill that guy. As you can see, tell me, do you happen to have a job for me? Give you quests. And I just jumped the stairs because I'm a boss. Oh, I can't enter that from the outside. I can go to the commander's room. There's a cannon in here. How did they get that in here? And there, Lieutenant Colonel George Custer. Oh god, it's Custer. Don't do that battle. You know what battle. Don't do it. Although, wouldn't this be after that battle? Because wasn't that in the Civil War? I'm probably screwing up my history, and I love history, but yeah. I can take a hostile action, which is, forget it, because there's nothing I can do, because it's a town. Whereas villages are a bit different, like Rockridge. Also, the ones that you see that have wooden walls are forts. They don't actually have very much in them. They just are connected to villages. Like, I couldn't just take a village. I'd need to take the connecting fort, or alternatively, town. But, over there, Cottonwood. There's the Cottonwood Hotel, and they own the Jansen Williamson Ranch. People travel back and forth from there. I can catch one of them. That'll give me a negative relation with them. And that will allow me to in turn siege the Cottonwood Hotel. And as such, take the Cottonwood Hotel and the connected ranch for myself. And that is the first goal. Eventually, I'll go after all the gangs. Like, there's a gang over there, there's the Davidson Lawmen, there's the Price gang. I'll eventually go after all of them. And as these guys are actually weaker, because they only have one big town and a couple forts, whereas America and Mexico have a couple big towns and several forts, I'll go after the Indians to gain power and then eventually fight one of the larger nations. And that is the end goal for this Let's Play. But for now, there are deserters and Confederates bearing down upon me. Neither of them will actually eventually get to me, because he is 4.4, he's 4.4, I'm 5.6. 8.0 actually, because I think I was stuck in a cactus. Cactuses in this actually act like tree land, which in the original game you traveled slower in, so yeah. But there are outlaws right there. Outlaws are a bit different than looters, they're kind of tougher. But I'm going to leave... Actually, I can't fight them without a horse, so I'm going to leave it here. And when we come back, I will travel my way to Cottonwood because I like to gravitate around Cottonwood because that's where my first goal is. And we will fight some various outlaws, probably hire some mercenaries to help me fight them until I get enough relations to hire the locals to take matters into their own hands to fight out the gangs. But that is for next time. Till then, see you later.